All right. Well, speaking of Steph, rather, his injury kind of leads us into the conversation for Game 4. So let's check out the lines heading into Game 4 tonight. Once again, Warriors are on the road, and they are the underdog again. Celtics laying 4 tonight. Total here is 213.5. Chris, knowing that Steph Curry might not be 100%, his post-game press conference, he said that he would likely be playing, but who knows what that pain level is like heading into the game tonight. What is your take on this game?
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to play, but what we all don't know, obviously, is he going to be 100%? Is he going to look any different? If he does at all, and the fact that there's even a chance of that is probably a good thing for anyone who likes the unders tonight, right? Because Golden State is going to have a really tough time to produce offense without Steph Curry. I mean, that's the most obvious line we could all say on the show, but I think we're really going to see it pan out here, because if the Celtics can, target Curry or be especially aggressive with Curry, and then force the other players on the Warriors to win that game for them, that's just going to be really tough for Golden State, right? We haven't seen Draymond Green be the distributor that he's been in the past too. That's a really important role for him too. He's obviously not a great scorer, but to be kind of at the head of the paint and to be charging forward and creating offense is something we didn't see from him in Game 3 either. So if we see a few changes from the Golden State offense, there's signs for optimism. But if Steph Curry still isn't what he should be for this game, I do think that this series is over at that point. So that being said, though, because that's on the table for Steph Curry still being a little banged up, and because we've seen the way that Golden State can respond, I think for most of us dissecting these games, there's two ways that Golden State can respond to such a young, athletic, and physical team like the Celtics. They can either just try to win by pure offense and play small ball, or they can really try to up their defense. In Game 2, it was more their defense, right? They just played much better defense. They guarded the paint significantly better. Draymond Green led the charge in that one. So, and Steve Kerr's kind of proven, right? That's kind of their new philosophy, right? Really become a better team on defense first. That's where they start, because obviously the firepower is going to be there for them on offense. So for all these reasons, I like the full game under. I like a lot of unders in this game, but my favorite play is the first quarter under, because I think it's a little too high. I have it at about 51. It's a 54 or 54.5, depending on the book. I think we got on 54.5 at BetUS right now. I do think that Golden State is going to put really, really strong effort in the start of this game to slow down that Celtics offense, because I think they know that they don't have a chance if they don't do that, just like in Game 2, right? You can't go down 2-0 at the Chase Center. So this is a really desperate moment for them, and I think they know that if they try to run the floor and pace themselves, the Celtics can do that too, and the Celtics are even bigger and even more athletic, like we said. So it has to start with their defense, and I expect a slower start to this game.
All right, well, that leads into maybe a full game under, which is what I'm going to take. So I like your thinking there. Shooting, Celtics in the first half, we talked about it in Game 3, put up 68 points, and that was really kind of what pushed that over is the scoring in the first half. Second half of that game was much slower. Pace of 89 in the third quarter, 84 in the fourth. And so I think that's what we see carry over again to tonight, a similar story of that slower pace game in the second half of Game 3. I also think we might be seeing a little bit more of Otto Porter Jr., maybe Gary Payton Jr. For Jordan Poole for the Warriors, just to have more defense, kind of beef up that end of the floor. And honestly, Jordan Poole just really hasn't looked very well or done much for them. So maybe a little bit more minutes from some more defensive-minded players. So I'm going to take the full game under. That is 213.5, I believe. Alex, what's your play? You agree with me?
I do. I like that full game under, and I'm not only going to do that. Give me a Warriors team total under tonight. I just think this team is in really rough shape. Again, there's been no adjustment from last game in terms of what to expect from Curry's injury. And you look in this series, they've scored 108, 107, and 100 points. In the two games, they just barely went over 105 points. Over 40% from three, over 45% from the field, and two of the faster paced games in this series. And I think tonight, exactly for all the reasons you guys have covered, they're both sides want a slower game tonight. Golden State needs to keep things down a little bit to make sure that Curry is not out there running around too much. And you're right, Poole has been a mess. I think they have to maybe try some different stuff tonight. I'm curious to see if we get more Iguodala minutes since he rested last game, and that's always a great thing for an under. So all looks really good to me tonight. Give me an under. Give me a Golden State team total under. It's just going to be an ugly, messy basketball game.
Chris, you got a question for Alex?
I do. Just curious
you can read
about
your mind.
Yeah, how'd you know that? I have just curious about your thought process, Alex, because I totally agree with you. It's weird that it's staying at 4. Obviously the books are, they're okay with the amount of money and the amount of bets on both sides, I guess. But does that ever kind of scare you away from that a little bit too, like your narrative, right? I mean, shouldn't it move a little bit after what we just saw?
Yeah, I don't worry about it too much in the NBA playoffs because that's just what kind of books do, unless there is really some sort of major news and Curry's going to play. So I think maybe if he were questionable, we'd see a different number or something like that. So I think because it doesn't go through those normal triggers, nothing's been changed. But in general, books just open up the next playoff game at what it closed the game before. So I think we're just kind of seeing that. And I don't necessarily know a ton of people that have maybe made any big bets on this game. I know somebody that just made a decent sized bet on the Celtics. So curious to see if that line moves at all. But it is a little odd that it stayed the same, Chris. You're right. I think maybe somebody would go in there and beat it down and shape it up. But maybe it means Curry's healthy. I'm happy to take the under even if he was healthy. It's just kind of a nice cherry on top.
One trend that's kind of stayed the same, and I know we don't always like to go off of trends, but it's the Warriors in the third quarter. They've won every third quarter in this series. I mean, all season long, they've been great coming out of the half. Chris, at what point do you stop playing the third quarter just kind of knowing that it's not going to hit every single time?
Yeah, well, I think then this is one of those games where I'm being a little cautious about that because I do think that the Warriors could lead in this game earlier. So maybe there's less of a need for them to respond in the third quarter. Again, Celtics, right? Younger, more athletic, bigger. They just have to do a little bit less. And they're not really doing any less, right? Because they have max effort in every game, but they're probably going to have more juice in the third quarter, just as younger athletes. So especially if the Warriors are playing from ahead heading into halftime, maybe we see the Celtics actually take a third quarter for once. But yeah, live bets, right? If you see the Celtics going up again, the Warriors are getting desperate. I really don't think that's a bad bet. It just keeps on hitting. I think that's where you might look for an over 2 in the third quarter. We saw it go way over in the third quarter in the last game as well. And another interesting angle is maybe if you see a lot of pace and points in the third, you take another one of those fourth quarter unders because we see the fourth quarter really slow down. And many of these games between both these teams in the playoffs. So it's a roller coaster, these series, but there are some patterns that you can get from it.
And going along with the fourth quarter slowing down, the fourth quarter has also been Boston's quarter this entire series. Alex, have you bet Boston fourth quarter at all this series?
No, it's kind of a tough market. You can't really do it pre-game and with some of the live stuff. I just mostly, honestly, been focusing on totals in this series. There's just been a lot of swings. And I guess all I'd say with the Warriors third quarter is if you've been betting it consistently, keep doing it. If you haven't, don't jump on now. It's one of those kind of things where if you've been riding the train, keep going. You just got to trust it. You've obviously made a ton of money at this point, but I wouldn't jump on again if you haven't been betting it already.
All right. Well, Golden State kind of has their backs up against the walls. I would call this a must-win. You guys would probably call this a must-win, right? Otherwise, they go back to Golden State down 3-1.
Yeah, if it's not a must-win, it's as close to a must-win as you get.
Yeah, I mean, I think the series is over if the Golden State Warriors lose tonight. I mean, I expect them to win in Game 5 then at the Chase Center, but that's a great setup for Boston to go back home and win it all in front of their home crowd. So.
Well, Warriors have won at least one road game in 26 consecutive series, which is pretty wild. So if they lose tonight, assuming that the Celtics close this out then in Game 5, that would snap that streak, obviously. No official picks on the side for us here, but we were all right in Game 3. Said we would take the Celtics and lay the points with them. Alex, who would you play tonight if you had to take a side?
Give me the Celtics.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I think they take this one. Chris?
Yeah, if you forced my hand, I would try to probably take the Celtics, but I personally do not recommend that. Even with the line where it's at, again, you said, okay, this is as desperate as it gets for this game for the Warriors. They do seem to find ways to hang in these games. I mean, look what they did in the third quarter. That was ridiculous. Yeah. Unbelievable response from Boston in Game 3 as well. But, this is every bit as dire as it feels, right? So if any game's going to be really close, And that's why I like the unders too, right? I think it's going to be such a battle. I think it's going to be this game.
All right, well, unders across the board for all of us. Alex and I are once again playing the full game under. Alex has also taken the Warriors team total under, and Chris playing the first quarter under at 54.5.